and liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome to our meeting of February 20th, 2018. Please note the council is in full attendance. And the first item on our agenda is items from council. I know, Ms. Solis, you have one. Would you like to, we'll just go into that first?
We can. I'd like to request a waiver from the building permit fees by the Victoria County Long-Term Recovery Group because we're still working on cleaning up roofs, the inside of houses and things like that. So it won't be just like, for a couple of months. It'll be for a couple of years. So I know we talked about it before, but we need to make sure that we have covered that area, that the length of time that they're requesting.
And John has some information, if council would like, on types of permits and stuff.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Thank you. I did talk about a week and a half ago to the leadership of the Long-Term Recovery Group, and they are requesting that we consider this waiver. It would be building permits and MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing permits strictly for homes that are being referred to us through just like we did for the disposal of debris waiver, fee waiver. So we would not, it's not just, we're not waiving all permit fees. It's just strictly homes that are being worked on by volunteer organizations that are being coordinated by the Long-Term Recovery Group. I think we're going to be primarily looking at re-roof permits, probably still some electrical permits and building permits, but on average, those permits run, the base fee is $80. On average, they'll run from $80 to $120 for a basic project like that. I can't tell, I don't have a number. I have no idea how many we're going to be talking about. But our recommendation is that if we do this, that we apply the same timeline that we did for the waiver of the debris pickup and disposal. So I think we gave that a year. We would tie this to that same timeline. And of course, we can reevaluate when that time comes near. But that's the information I have for you. I can tell you that when we did the temporary fee waiver back from the end of August to the end of October, we waived a little over $60,000 in permit fees, just to kind of give you the scale, but I can't tell you how much we're going to be looking at going forward.
And if I may, John, that $60,000, that was every permit. What we're talking about here is just requests by the long-term, the
Yes, sir.
LTR,
Absolutely.
long-term
Yeah,
recovery.
We're talking about a much smaller number.
And these folks are means tested, and this is all done with donated dollars.
Correct.
Okay, okay.
It's basically Habitat. It's the Rio, Texas conference. For the most part, there are some other church groups coming in and going, but most of it's being coordinated by those two organizations.
So if I'm putting a roof on my house, I do not qualify. It's
No,
those
sir.
processed through, okay.
Take Long-Term Recovery Group. And I'd also like to pull D3. I just have some general questions.
So what we would need, if council is okay with that, then we'd bring back an ordinance at the next meeting waiving those fees.
And just to make sure we're all on the same page, this is just for the fees. It doesn't mean you don't have to pull a permit, and you don't have to get inspections. It's
You're correct.
just the monetary portion
Just
of
the
it.
permit fees.
Point. Okay. Y'all want to do that? Bring it back? We'd have to amend the ordinance.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Okay.
And we're pulling D3?
3.
I've got a couple quick items. I wanted to compliment, or I received a compliment from a citizen about Daryl and Rochelle. And Rochelle, that you guys were very, very helpful to some issues with them, so thank you for that. Also wanted to compliment Mayor Pro Tem Jeff Bachnight. We had the Texas House Appropriations Committee held a meeting in Victoria today, so we had, how many were there? About 8 or 10 state reps? And they wanted to hear some feedback about Hurricane Harvey efforts. And I thought I was going to be out of town, so Jeff was prepared as usual and did a great job. I was able to make it back and sit in on it and add a comment or two, but I thought you did a great job representing us.
Well, thanks, but I could not have done that without the help from John Kaminsky and Chief Tanner Drake. They fed me all the information that they had been working on, and I really do appreciate that. It made that presentation go very easily.
Good, thank you. Anything else under items from council? Okay, if not, let's move into citizens' communication. If anyone in the audience would like to come speak about anything at all, you're welcome to do that now. Come on up to the podium. Okay, seeing no one get up, we'll close citizens' communication. And we do have one public hearing with an ordinance.
Item C1 is an ordinance reviewing and renewing Chapter 15 of the Victoria City Code as pertains to the city's juvenile curfew order in accordance with Texas Local Government Code Section 370.002, repealing all conflicting ordinances, providing a penalty not to exceed $500 upon conviction, providing for publication, codification, and savings, and declaring an effective date.
Okay, so we have a public hearing on this item. If anyone would like to speak just to this item, you can come forward now. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Chief, did you want to speak to this?
I can, or I'm here to answer any questions concerning ordinance.
I
if there
I
is.
read where you recommended we continue.
Yes,
Okay. And so for the benefit of others, this is the teen curfew, which is required to be renewed. Is it every 3 years?
every 3 years.
And so we have, it has to be reapproved, and we typically rely on, if you think it's helping you guys with your policing, which you have indicated it is, so.
I believe it's a useful tool, yes.
Okay.
There are no changes to the existing, we're just extending it.
That's correct.
And just while, real quick, the hours are what, they're in here.
And the
you-
ages,
After midnight on weekdays and after 1 o'clock in the morning on the weekends.
Okay. What age is it, Jan? Did you?
at under
Six-
17.
Yes.
16 and under, yeah.
Okay, very good. All right, no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Okay, thank you, Chief. And then the consent agenda, 1 and 2.
There are two items on the consent agenda. The first is the approval of minutes of the regular meeting of February 6th, 2018. The second is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a renewal of the annual supply contract for limestone base with CEMEX Construction Materials South LLC in the amount of $22.63 per ton for a total of approximately $181,040 based on an estimated annual quantity of 8,000 tons and declaring an effective date.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, we have everything okay?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. Okay, ayes have it. Number 3.
D3 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a professional services agreement with Victoria Engineering Incorporated, doing business as Urban Engineering, for engineering design services for Crestwood Drive Reconstruction Project Phase 1 in the amount of $284,150 and declaring an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
All I want to know is, how do we determine what engineering entity that we use, whether we use urban or civil engineering? Do they bid for these jobs? Do we just how do we determine which engineering program, engineering entity we're going to use?
I usually make that decision, and I kind of base it on workload. You know, we've got Civil Corp doing a bunch of jobs, and I've got Urban doing a bunch of jobs, and then there's some jobs, depending on the scope of them, that are maybe a little bit big for either one of the locals, and we'll go outside. Maybe it's a little bit outside of their expertise, so it just kind of depends on the job and the workload.
Oh, okay.
And that falls under the professional services,
Right,
so
right.
we wouldn't do a bid, a typical, like you would see competitive bid.
Oh, you do bid?
We would
You don't-
not.
oh, we
No,
not?
it's,
Okay.
yeah, there's an,
Only for contractors.
Oh, okay.
there's an exemption in the competitive bidding law for professional services.
Okay. I just wondered because I've never asked, and I thought, okay, maybe I'd ask today.
Yeah, glad you did. It's a good question.
So is this comparable? Well, I mean, you're obviously recommending this to us,
Right.
and you're comfortable with this amount. You know, I have to, I'm gonna be real honest with council. When I saw that, you know, and I'm not an engineer, and I spoke to the people at the firm, or at least a he's here, I won't say his name. And it's a lot of money. I don't know how else to say it, but it's annoying to me. I'm not saying that it's not warranted. They do a fine job for us, right? And they have
Absolutely.
for many years. It's
Yes,
just,
sir.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
like many things, it comes about with federal and state laws, most of it ADA compliance, when you have to deal with sidewalks that have to connect up to a too slanted of a driveway and other issues of that sort. It runs the cost up a lot. Each one has to be individually engineered. That's one of the main costs right there.
yeah, and
Not to defend, it's still high, it's still expensive, but there are reasons for it as well.
and staff explained to me that, yeah, there's a lot of underground lines that need to be located and checked out and to avoid costly mistakes during the construction. But, anyway, yeah, engineering costs a lot. And, when I looked at that section of Crestwood, I just see a straight road. It's like, how complicated can this be?
There's a lot of
But
there's a lot
I
of
understand.
conflicts in there.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
There's a lot of conflicts in that roadway, and you spend some of this money up front so that you don't have to spend it at the end,
Right.
or more at the end.
Is this is an 8-foot sidewalk on one side that we had talked about?
Yes, sir.
Five on the
Where,
other
and I
side.
forget, where did the concept of putting the 8-foot, I mean, we talked about it here.
Well, Ms. Scott asked
Right.
one day about the concept of doing concrete versus asphalt, and during the conversation with Ms. Scott, Donald said, this is prime opportunity. You can also look at doing a conjunctive use sidewalk.
Oh,
You have
okay.
enough right of way. Yeah, it was discussed a couple of times in council before we got to this point, before the holidays and then after the holidays.
I certainly remember the discussion.
Sure.
And now I remember it was Ms. Scott, but,
Yeah, it was something we sort of might have looked at with Red River, but we didn't have the right of
Right.
way.
yeah.
That's correct.
This one we do, and it's a great opportunity.
So the idea is hopefully extend this all the way down towards the park at some point in the future.
Right.
And my concern, I'm not contesting that. We need to keep the cars parked on the street. And I know Chief will have no parking on that 8-foot sidewalk, but there will be a temptation for people to pull their car up on there and things like that, so.
And that was a question put to me, do we want to rethink or look at, do we need an 8-foot sidewalk in that section? Just because you have old-style construction with some of those angles being a lot different than what you might be accustomed to, is that our best choice? And I don't know that answer.
Well, if you want it to be a conjunctive use sidewalk where you can have, bikers and pedestrians on there, 8 foot is the recommended standard for that.
Is there a right of way to continue that all the way to the park someday, that 8-foot? Do y'all know?
When you Donald, when you
when you-
cross Main,
Yeah, when you cross Main, there's a gap that's a little bit questionable, and I don't have that answer right now. I think there is a way to do it, and you'll tie onto Main Street,
Vine.
Vine.
Yeah.
But then going down Vine, it's a 4-foot regular sidewalk that'll have to be addressed at some point.
Yeah, yeah, okay. I mean, we do need to make sure that that right of way is available at least all the way to Main. Otherwise, it'd be kind of silly to have one section with an 8-foot conjunctive use, and then we
Hold on.
didn't have it. We need
Ken,
to
have
make
you-
sure.
Have you looked at that section of Crestwood? Do you know if there's enough room there?
I believe there would be. That section of Crestwood between Main and Vine is very, very low volume, and we could make that 37-foot wide street and
Yeah,
have plenty
just-
of room to get a
Just narrow the
sidewalk on
road.
it.
you've
But I
got
mean,
open ditches in that area
Right.
too, so we'll have to pipe.
the rest of the way, well, like where your office is on, there's plenty of right of way there, between Navarro and Main.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right,
Yeah, we're good to go.
good, all right.
I have one more question. Is part of the engineering program, the work that they do in the design, do they also pick the contractor, or is that just bid out through
No.
the city?
In this particular contract, we've taken out the bidding services
Okay.
from the engineer, so that bidding will be done by us, and we'll pick the contractor. We'll award the contractor, as we always do. We always have the last say in that, or y'all always have the last say in that.
Okay.
And just because the engineer's in the audience, just so you know, I get annoyed at lawyers' fees, insurance fee, I get annoyed at everybody. I think that's our job a little bit, so no hard feelings there on that one, so. Okay, good discussion. Anything else? Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donald.
Item E1 is a resolution granting a variance to Division 3 of Chapter 5, Sections 5-50 through 5-52, to allow repair of buildings owned by the City of Victoria and leased by the Texas Zoological Society that were damaged by Hurricane Harvey, and declaring an effective date.
Make a motion to approve item E1.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any questions, discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. Thank you. E2.
E2 is a resolution supporting Prospera Housing Community Services application to the Texas Department of Community and Housing Affairs for competitive tax credits to rebuild and repair Fox Run Apartments, a development located within the presidential declared disaster areas, waiving up to $500 of building permit fees as financial support and declaring an effective date.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. Okay. E3.
E3 is a resolution approving the optional redemption of the City of Victoria, Texas pass-through toll revenue and limited tax bonds, Series 2011, maturing on August 15th, 2027, and calling for such maturity for early redemption, and approving and authorizing the execution and performance of all documents and procedures related thereto, and declaring an effective date.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions?
Yeah, this is the agreement with MPO, with TxDOT, where they would pay us back for the increase in traffic for the two overpasses at Salem, and next one over was.
Mockingbird.
Salem and Mockingbird.
The loop, yeah.
And this is an early redemption clause that we were allowed. In other words, we put up the money up front. TxDOT no longer offers these types of contracts. And we fronted the money, but they paid us back. It's called tolling, but it's not really the tolling in the traditional sense, like a toll road. But we got paid back early. Is that correct?
Yes, we're using the annual reimbursements from TxDOT to basically call in the back end of these bonds. And per the original plan, we hope to have these paid off by 2022.
Love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah. Ditto. It's good to see it work. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, ayes have it. E5. 4.
E4 is a resolution awarding the Hurricane Harvey exterior repairs and roof replacement project for various city facilities to Trumbull Construction Incorporated, doing business as RBT Roofing, in the amount of $364,232.68, authorizing the city manager to execute all documents necessary to complete the project and declaring an effective date.
Make a motion to approve item E4.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Discussion?
My question is, how does it get to the contractor to bid this work? Is it bid, or is it buy board, or?
This, the TIPS contract that we're utilizing is a cooperative contract. So it's basically pre-bid contracts that are out there for this type of construction work. These particular, I'd be remiss if I didn't introduce, Scott Franklin is here with 4T Partnership. That's one of the groups that TML has lined up. Basically, I'm working with Scott from day one, using the insurance adjusters report, pulling out scopes of work, and then he's literally going back through the cooperative contracts to get pricing on it. And this RBT Roofing was the contractor selected through that cooperative contract to do the turnkey work of all 4 contracts. Does that answer your question?
Believe so. Thank you.
And this is all paid through TML insurance anyway?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the
Okay.
most important thing. And
Yeah. that's
even if
good.
there's some underruns where insurance didn't pay initially, Scott's working with us to work with TML to get supplementals to basically cover 100% of this work through TML insurance proceeds.
Andrew, I think you have a TML rep sitting in the back, too.
Yes, that's one of the gentlemen that's going to be working down at the zoo. He's actually with Synergy. So TML, Synergy, almost interchangeable. So yeah, we have a lot of different folks, and I know we'll have a pre-construction meeting tomorrow, and I know that RBT is ready to get going on a lot of this work.
They're going to be everywhere. You got a lot. This list is long, so,
Spread out pretty far.
good,
I think
okay,
there's 42 locations.
right.
And we've got a good quality control process. Everything will be documented before, after. So everything will be put together in a final file for the city to have and know exactly what was done, how it was done, when it was done.
Very good.
It's probably in here, but how long do we think it will take? What's the estimate?
We're saying the contracts have by December 31st, but
Okay.
I know we were talking probably at least 3 to 4 weeks on the exterior, but do you
Yeah,
have a better?
I think you have, the first grouping of repairs, you're probably looking at 60 to 70% of this being knocked out in the first 30 to 45 days. There will be a little bit of a lag because we have, certain facilities, which are more capital repairs rather than, more minor. And that was a little bit of the difficulty with this one. When we get into wind-related type damage, it tends to be a little bit more sporadic and not, a complete destruction of the exterior roof or the exterior wall. Sometimes those are a little easier to put together versus little spot repairs from, 3 here and 4 there and 3 here. But I think the bulk of it, probably the first 30 to 45 days, I think easily most of it we should be at 90, 95 within probably 50 to 75 days, depending on weather, because weather will impact the production time.
Thank you.
Very good. Any further questions?
There's no roofs that are full replacement?
The second, or there's actually 2 sets, and we tried to keep it somewhat manageable, so there's really 4 contracts. So the second contract totaling 120,000 are what we consider full replacements. And then at the zoo, the 118,000 are full replacements. So you've kind of got 2 sections, exterior repairs and full replacements for both city facilities and the zoo. So that's
So-
why there's 4.
Not,
Tips 2 and 4 are gonna be more your capital scopes of work, whereas tips 1 and 3 are more of your spot repair type. Not a totality repair.
and these new roofs that are going in, they meet the new codes?
They do. They meet all the energy codes. They're also Cool Roof certified, 100% recyclable. Each one of the permanent roofs going back, say for example, on the low slope, I was fortunate enough in working with TML, as I do with a number of cities around the state and its members, all of the low slope roofs are being upgraded to what's called severe hail certified assemblies by Factory Mutual. That's a classification that those materials are tested under at Factory Mutual and qualified as withstanding the highest level of hail exposure that they have currently in their thresholds. All of the low sloped roofs also meet and exceed FM Factory Mutual 120 uplift. I felt like that was important with us being so close and being in a hurricane zone, that we make sure that the city facilities are absolutely the best protected in the high wind conditions. What we also did is all of the sloped roof assemblies, I went back with high wind nailing rather than standard. I also excluded any staples, so they all have to be barb nails. We also went back with all algae resistant, class 4 shingles. So those are all upgrades to the city over what they had previously. The city didn't have any of that criteria on the roofs that we lost, but they will on the roofs that we're going back with.
So that R value of that is it polyiso?
Yes, sir. Polyiso will go up to a maximum of 5.56 R per inch, which is your 5th year aging under RIC TEMA and the NRCA.
So
we allow for a
5.5.
maximum of 5.56. It's
Sure that meets the
manufactured.
commercial code for roofing systems?
No. What I was explaining is when you look at an ISO board, let's say you get a 3-inch ISO board, the maximum allowable R per inch would be 5.56 versus the manufactured R, which is 8.3. So what we did is we took the energy code, and I'd have to go back and look, but I want to say it was 24, 25. I'd have to go back and look at the actual thickness. So what we did is we took the R value requirement of the energy code, divide that by 5.56. That's the minimum number of inches of polyiso. Plus we factor in on all of the low slopes, we did a 1/4 inch dens over that. That's what gets me my Factory Mutual severe hail rating classification. Then what we did is On the roofing system, those will all be fully adhered, PVC cool roof certified, with a 20-year NDL for the city. I also felt it was important that any of the assets that got replaced totally, that the city be able to amortize those assets a full 20 years from the time it was repaired.
Okay. The only reason I'm asking is that all this documentation just shows a single layer of 1-inch polyiso to a roof deck, and I don't believe that meets the energy code.
I'll get that clarified, but I believe that specific reference was over a structural concrete deck, which is what we have out at the zoo on one. So that could have gotten pulled from that reference. Obviously, structural concrete deck, we've got a much greater R-value assembly in that deck than we would on a metal deck.
Yeah,
But we'll make sure everything's met.
okay.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. Thank you. Thank you, sir. 5.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to accept a grant from Lyondell Basell in the amount of $2,000 to be used in the city's fire department in creating a public service training program and declaring an effective date.
Make a motion, we accept E5.
Second.
Okay. Motion seconded. Any questions? Do you have anything to share with us?
No, I'm just here.
Why don't you explain the Stop the Bleed
I
campaign?
have the kit here if you'd like to see that.
Well, somebody have to bleed before?
No, you can just kind of see what it is.
Because I got some volunteers.
Yeah. that-
They're in the
Couple of
audience, right?
questions.
Okay.
Tracy, I have a couple of questions.
Went way over my head.
How many kids is this $2,000 gonna buy, and are we gonna supplement that program with any further monies?
That, the $2,000, what we have done already, or what we're looking to do and have worked with VISD is buying a kit for each campus of the school district. And then also we're working with the city safety office and we're gonna, supply some kits like here in this building, next to the AED cabinet, 700 Main, Community Center. Our law enforcement officers already have that in each car. We obviously carry that in our ambulances and fire trucks and things like that. But basically what the kit is basically it's a Stop the Bleed is a nationwide campaign that tries to teach the layperson how to control major bleeding. We don't have to look very far back in history, just last week to see, you know, unfortunate, tragic consequences of people's actions. And what's going to really save lives is these kits being available in the schools, in the businesses where these things happen to stop the bleeding. So and that's what these kits do. They have the tourniquet in there, other bandaging and bleeding control devices to hopefully stop the bleeding. The second piece of this is that we in partnership with our local RAC, which is our Regional Advisory Council, are providing the training to all the school nurses. The school nurses then become trainers and they provide training to the teachers and so on and so forth. And then we're also going to provide and make that part of our community education program is teaching to stop the bleed to different residents throughout the community, businesses, things like that. So
Interesting. You know, I mean, I thought it was interesting when the defibrillators were placed out, but now we're going further.
right, yeah, the future concept is right next to the AED box is a bleeding control box, and it has several of these kits in there. That's where this is going.
Okay. Is there any further questions?
Nice, real nice.
Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Thank you, Chief.
E6. E6 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for and accept funding from the Holy Family Catholic Church's Share with Others Fund grant program in the amount of $4,675 for support of the city's RAD program and declaring an effective date.
I
So
move to
moved.
adopt.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. So where do y'all do this training, Chief?
At various locations, we've done some of it up at our facility up in the North Mall. Some of the other locations off the top of my head, I'm not coming up with, but we moved around a little bit.
Yeah, how do y'all advertise? Just,
Mostly through our social media process,
okay.
but it is by far one of the most popular programs we have. Fills up very, very quickly, and it's always has a extensive waiting list of folks that are interested in taking the class.
Good, good. It's very generous of Holy Family to
Very generous.
offer this grant.
Very much
so
appreciative.
Thanks to those guys, too. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, the same. Okay, thank you, Chief.
E7 is a resolution awarding a water line extension project on Airline Road to Falcon Lease Operating Company for their low quote of $35,728, authorizing the city manager to execute all documents necessary to complete the project and declaring an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any questions for Mr. Reese? It's pretty well explained in your write-up, so. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, thank you.
E8 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a utility easement agreement with PDG Farms Limited in the amount of $2,500 for a water lease easement between Airline Drive and East Hiller Streets and declaring an effective date.
Make a motion to approve item E8.
Be second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion?
I have a question. I probably should have asked it on the last one, but it's all related. Is this going to be tearing up the streets, or is it on the sides of the streets, this construction we're talking about?
You will have a small utility connection in Airline. It'll be a small cut in Airline to reach the water line, but that should be about it. It won't be a huge cut.
Right, thank you.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
E9 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a real estate sales contract accepting land from Larry Tomanek for a water line easement between Airline Drive and East Hiller Streets and declaring an effective date.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I want to thank Mr. Tominick and his family for donating that easement. It's kind of them, and they're good people, so. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, item passes.
E10 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an advanced funding agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation for the relocation of the city's existing water and sanitary sewer lines for the U.S. Highway 59 North Frontage Road Phase 2 project in the amount of $664,701 and declaring an effective date.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions on this one?
Can you explain this a little better? It's not real clear. This is out on 59, between 463 and Business 59?
Yes, sir.
Um,
It's basically where the state is extending the next phase of the I-69 corridor from where it left off at 463, and then taking it out to just past Telfner where it meets Business 59. And we have some utilities in the existing state right-of-way. Well, in order to, and that's water, sewer, drainage. And in order to expand their roadway to meet the I-69 requirements, they're having to build into where our utilities are at. So in order for them to facilitate their construction, we're going to have to move some of our utilities.
Okay, and these aren't very old lines that we have out there, are they?
Ken, do you know the age of those lines? 70s. Yeah, I was thinking it's probably the 70s, early 80s.
Well, the reason I was asking is we didn't anticipate that would be needing a wider thing for I-69 designation.
I did not anticipate that, no, sir.
Okay.
It was a long time ago.
I don't even know if Donald was born in the 70s.
74.
But
I resemble that remark.
I won't use the word annoying on this one. I use the word frustrating on this one when I read it. It's like,
Well,
You
and
know.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I will say that the state worked with us. Their original design estimate was $1 million for us to move our utilities. So we got together with them and they kind of did a redesign to get the cost down. So it's not so hard on us. So they did work with us.
And this project was sped up too.
It was.
It was moved
This-
up.
Yeah, it was moved. The timeline on this project was moved up some.
and as a city, I know we support I-69, so it's like, well,
Yeah.
here we are advocating for this, and
Yeah.
this is part of it. But I have to be a little bit sarcastic. So like if we build a road and there's a gas line in it, who pays for the movement of that gas line?
Gas company would, well, it's going to depend. Yes, sir. It'll depend.
Yeah.
You're right.
Donald, are we keeping the size of the pipe the same, or is it gonna get bigger? I mean,
Everything will pretty much stay the same.
it stays the same?
Yes, ma'am.
We
Yeah, we have
won't
plenty,
need-
we have plenty of capacity out there. We just need
Okay.
to move our lines.
Okay, just wanted to think about, the expansion of business out there and
I understand.
make sure. Okay.
All right. Not in the budget. We'll just make it work.
Well, we're postponing our rehabilitation of Water Tower 6
Right.
to pay for this, so.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Ayes have it. E11.
E11 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a memorandum of agreement with the Golden Crescent Regional Planning Commission, known as Victoria Transit, and the Victoria Metropolitan Planning Organization, which states that the MPO will adopt and administer the public participation plan on behalf of the city and Victoria Transit and declaring an effective date.
So move.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
This is just a housekeeping item.
It is,
red.
and I know Julie's here. The transit always does their public participation where they have to. This is just one of those, I guess, the Federal Highway Association or whatever wants a written documentation that they have an agreement with the MPO to do all that, so.
Primarily related to our MTP and the public participation that's required through the MTP and how we do our public participation with transit-related items in that document as well. So we need to formalize that agreement.
Yeah, and MTP is,
Metropolitan Transportation Plan,
Thank
which is
you.
our long-range transportation plan for Victoria County.
so, but the transit has been doing what they were supposed to be
Right.
doing, so.
That's the most eloquent description of bureaucracy I've ever heard.
It's the federal government.
Yep.
This came before the MPO last week, and they approved it.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same. Okay, thank you. All right. There's some city manager reports.
And the first one is the warrant, not roundup this year. But so Tiffany Toto, the municipal court clerk, is going to explain what's going on with that this year.
Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on the warrant resolution campaign that we are participating in this year. Instead of doing the traditional roundup, we have opted to host open dockets starting next week on Monday, February 26th and March 1st. Citizens need to be checked in by 1 p.m. on these days, and it's basically for them to come in and discuss their warrants or citations with the judge or the prosecutor. We mailed out notices in addition to our collection agency promoting this, so that way we can get the word out that we are not doing the warrant roundup and we're giving them opportunities to come in at court. The Public Information Office has been very helpful. They are helping promote this through Facebook, and Josh Garrett has actually done a video for us that we'll be posting as well to get the word out there.
And I know he's got that video before you start, but Tiffany, we were talking yesterday, the open docket is working very well for the court system, and y'all are very pleased with that.
Yes, we've been doing these since about September, and we've had a really great response. People can come in and without being arrested, they can take care of their cases, get their warrants withdrawn, they can talk to the prosecutor or the judge, work out community service options, payment plan options. It's been a really positive thing for the court, and people really do love it, so it has been working well for us. So,
All right. You want to see the video?
yes.
Okay. The front one, I think. I really want to see the video, too. No pressure. I'm kidding.
Looks like we're out of time.
That's true.
Oh, my goodness. That's a good one.
The City of Victoria will not be participating in Warrant Roundup this year. Instead, we are having open court days. Have you received this postcard in the mail? This postcard means that you have an active or pending warrant for your arrest. Here's how it works. Come to the municipal court located at 107 West One Lynn Street on February 26th or March 1st. Check-in is before 1 p.m. You can either pay your fines or work with the court to discuss your options. This is an opportunity to resolve any pending citations where you can discuss your case with the judge or prosecutor and see what options are available. Community service or a reduction of fines is possible. You will not be arrested at this event. You can also check to see if you have any violations or if you have a warrant out for your arrest by going to www.covcourt.com. Simply fill out your name and birthday to find out. If you do have any fines, you can pay them right there on the website. For more information or questions, call 361-485-3050.
Good. Nice, straight to the point. Good job. Okay, what else you got?
And the last item,
JJ.
yes, it's JJ and his racial profiling annual report.
Me again. Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. Before you is a 2017 partial exemption racial profiling report, which we are obligated to present to you each and every year. This is the 2017 report that would be submitted to the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. This report is required by law to be presented to the governing body by each law enforcement agency on or before March 1 of each year. The report is a compilation of data gathered as a result of motor vehicle stops made by officers of the Victoria Police Department. For these purposes, a motor vehicle stop means an occasion where a peace officer stops a motor vehicle for an alleged violation of law or ordinance. Officers capture the required information, which these stops result in a citation, an arrest, or both. The state of Texas revised the reporting requirements in the 81st legislative session, and the attached data on the next page complies with those reporting requirements. And just by way of further background, because I've been asked, and is what's a partial exemption racial profiling report? The state categorizes three types of reports that you can file. One is you're an agency requesting exempt reporting, meaning that you're a police agency, but you don't make traffic stops. So similar to what you would see at the Victoria College police officers, they don't make traffic stops in a typical form or fashion. So they would file an exemption for completing this report. Then you have a partial exemption, and that's the one we fill out, and that is police agencies that actually do conduct traffic stops, but they have dash cam video, in-car video that captures those stops. And so by virtue of the fact that you have that, you can file that report that's in front of you right now, which is a condensed version, a summary, if you will, of the data. And then you also have full reporting, and that's agencies that do traffic stops as part of their normal routine business, but they do not have in-car camera systems, so they have to fill out the full reporting system. And then just taking a look at the data on the right-hand side, I've got some observations that, from years of looking at this type of data. And also, I wanted to make a note that, and I like to throw in the fact that, we don't have to capture it necessarily in this report, but we've had 0 complaints from the public, complaints concerning racial profiling in 2017. So just a couple of observations that I have is that the department has a comprehensive general order in place concerning bias policing, and which specifically prohibits racial profiling of any kind, and also bias policing of any kind. The department is in compliance with state laws concerning collection and racial profiling data, and the department is in compliance with the state law concerning racial profiling complaint process and the public education about the complaint process. That information can be found on our website, and also there's data at our front desk and out of all of our facilities as well on how to file a report, a complaint, and how to file one specific to racial profiling. And looking at the data, The data, there's no conclusive indicators of systemic racial profiling by the police department that I can review and see by checking this report. And I'm certainly available to answer any questions you might have concerning the report.
Okay. Well, good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that, I do want to mention, I almost forgot. So today at 5 o'clock was the deadline to file for city council, is that right? We
The
didn't,
write-in.
right, we didn't bring that
The
up, did we?
write-in.
Under items from council? So we had none, so y'all are unopposed, so we can look forward to not having to have an election, which will be on our next agenda item to cancel that, correct?
Should be if we get all the,
Get it back from the
yeah.
translator.
So if
Okay.
not, it'll be on the next one.
Okay, just want to update everybody on that. That concludes our agenda. We do have one
Executive session.
executive session, thank you.
That's right. The city council will recess for executive session on the 20th day of February 2018 at 5:46 PM. The subject matter of the executive session deliberation is as follows. Texas Government Code Section 551.072 to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property interests due to the fact that the deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the city in negotiations with a third person. Thank you.
Right next to you.
Here, I will show.